Ghosts and ghouls, demons and aliens, monsters and worse. Only here on Ghost or What, the best channel for original scary stories. Our next story is A Nightmare Through Facetime. In a bustling city, amid the rush of passengers at a train stop, amid smoke and commotion, passengers begin to board the train. Among all those who enter is Christopher, a middle-aged math teacher who sits in the back and is already comfortable in his seat. Then someone greets him very kindly, Miles, one of his students. After they greet each other, right there Sarah enters, another teacher, but younger and specialized in history, accompanied by a close friend and housewife, Sophia, who smiled at them very warmly. They were going in the same direction, and fate had them sitting together. It was just a matter of time before they were deep in conversation. In the middle of the trip between laughter and jokes, Sarah tells them that something very curious happened to her on one of her trips to a congress. Everyone noticed her hesitation right away. The people surrounding them perked up and listened intently to every word of her story. There was something wrong with Sarah. Her story would change everything. Sarah was traveling by herself on a bus which was full. There was just a single seat available when she entered, and when she sat down, she saw that one of the passengers, a man, who was sitting in the last seat, smiled and winks at her. But there was something wrong with him. He was not just unusually pale. His skin genuinely looked gray. A little uncomfortable, Sarah still answers with a smile, but after a while, with no other distractions, she falls asleep and is woken up by the ringing of her cell phone. She goes to answer it, and at that moment, she sees that it was a video call from an unknown number. The image was so blurry that she could not identify it. No one could be seen at all, so she ignored the call and decided to talk to the passenger next to him. After a while, curious, Sarah turned on her seat, and then she suddenly sees that in the seat of the man who had smiled at her, he was no longer there, but there was an older, gray-haired woman who greeted her with a wave of the hand. But this kind gesture turned to be a little disturbing for Sarah, who got the impression that this woman's hand was green as a fading bruise, as if it was sick and not getting enough blood. This confused and unsettled Sarah a little, but she didn't care enough to try to do something about it. At that moment, Sarah's cell phone rings again, and she answers quickly, and again, it is a call from an unregistered number. It was a video call that she tried to answer quickly, but she could only see a space full of empty bus seats, to which she answers more and more frantically. Hello? Hello? Who's there? Is this a joke? Hello? But other than the blurry image of the empty seat, there's an awful sound, like someone struggling to breathe. Sarah hung up and tried her hardest not to look at the seats behind her. She decided to call this person back, but she was shocked by the result. She opened FaceTime and still, she couldn't see anyone, but in her headphones, she could hear clearly someone murmuring, "I'm watching you. I'm watching you." Sarah ended the call quickly, tried to act calm and forget about it, for as long as she could. At last, Sarah fell asleep, but she was soon startled by her phone ringing again with another FaceTime call. This time she allowed herself to take the call quickly, without thinking too hard about it. But once again, she was welcomed by the same strange image. She was staring directly at an empty bus seat, but the image was blurry, as if there was something staining the camera. Hello? Hello? Please answer me. This is not funny. Sarah whispered, hoping the other passengers wouldn't hear her lose her mind. The blur on the image moved, as if it was static on an old television. Then she heard the raspy, breathless voice again. It said, "Sit with us. Sit with us and never leave. Sit with us." Sarah almost started screaming, but then she turned around again. And this time, the seat wasn't occupied by the man who winked at her, or the old woman who waved at her. This time, there was a little boy sitting there. He had a wicked smile, and when Sarah looked at him, he started cackling like a maniac. The worst part were his teeth, all stained red with blood. Why would a little boy be laughing while his mouth was bleeding? What was wrong with him? Sarah couldn't take it anymore. Where were the others? How did they change their seats on a completely full bus? Who kept calling her damn phone? She jumped out of her seat and stumbled her way toward the driver's seat. "Excuse me," she said to the bus driver. "I am concerned about some of the passengers on the bus. They are acting weird, I think. They're sitting over there." But as soon as Sarah said those words and turned to point at the seat on the back of the bus, she started shaking all over again. The seat was completely empty. The bus driver laughed at her. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said. "No one else has taken that seat in a while. It's broken. It's been empty this entire time. Are you going to pick up?" His question startled Sarah. Only then she realized her phone was ringing. Her legs were shaking, and the bus was driving down a bumpy road. But she started walking back to her seat. She noticed the empty seat at the end of the bus, and she focused on it as she accepted the call. This time, they wouldn't surprise her, but oh, it was horrible. There, on Sarah's phone screen, the FaceTime call showed her own face. She was fast asleep, in her seat on the bus. And then a hand crept in from the seat behind her and landed on her shoulder. A gray and dirty hand, followed by a greenish, sick hand that stroked her hair, and another hand stained with dried blood under the nails, and a ghastly cut on the wrist, stroking her cheek as she slept on the live video. More and more videos came from seemingly out of nowhere to grab and grip her unconscious body. The vision was disturbing, but it was right there on her phone, staring at her, who believed to be awake and living. Was this her past? Her future? Her fate? A hallucination or a threat? Each option was more horrifying than the previous ones. Sarah screamed. She screamed and cried and fell to her knees. All the passengers rushed over to help her to see what was wrong. All she knew was that she had to get out of that bus and get rid of her phone. She simply wasn't sure if it would be so easy to get rid of that terror. Did you think that was the end? The terror never ends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more horror stories, only on Ghost or What.